Welcome to the UEFA Champions League Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the west coast of the U.S., Josh Lander, joined as always by my mate across the pond, Dan Tracey. How are you today, Dan?
Yeah, doing really well, thank you. We spoke about the futures of the Champions League a couple of weeks ago. Now we're into the matches themselves, so all that kind of bracket talk will be then sort of filled out in a bit more detail in a moment, and we've got some big tips for you watchers.
I do like this, and we had some fun in our futures, but Dan really excels here when we get into this game strategy and such, which I think will come into play here as we talk about our first match. I will say we are covering all four of these quarterfinal games that we have here in a couple of videos, so make sure to like and subscribe to the page. Also head to thelines.com. We have a ton of good content up there right now, NBA as well as this UEFA. We've even got some Masters golf stuff up there, but Dan's putting all of his articles on the site where you can make sure that you're tracking what he's talking about here, as I have been. I will be fully honest, as I'm covering and making certain wagers of my own, I'm certainly tailing our friend Dan, who has been red hot as we've gone through this UEFA Champions League, coming off of a super nice World Cup as well. So we'll look to keep it going here. And this first video, we're talking about the 11th of April and the games that will be played that day. Two games. The first one here, Man City is taking on the Bayern Munich, who is a monster right now as well, although Man City does remain favorites in this one. So let's talk about some of your best bets in what is expected to be a pretty close matchup in Manchester.
Yeah, of course. I mean, as you say, Manchester City versus Bayern Munich, two European heavyweights going back to facing off of each other at the Etihad. Now, if we were to sort of discuss this game 2 weeks ago, we looked at the futures, but we kind of picked just the winner. We kind of looked at Man City's potential route to the final and Bayern Munich. That's a Bayern Munich team which has now changed managers quite ruthlessly because they've got rid of Julius Nagelsmann. They're putting Thomas Tuchel. So you're kind of thinking you've got two teams that are known for their attacking prowess. You know, they demolish teams on the domestic front. But sometimes when you get these two superpowers, they cancel each other out. Now I'm thinking when you put Pep Guardiola in one corner and you put Thomas Tuchel in the other as managers, it's going to be more chess than soccer. You're going to see so many tactical nuance and tweaks across the game that I'm not sure it's going to be so free-flowing. Also add to the fact that Guardiola and Tuchel met in the 2021 Champions League final, so not as high stakes this coming midweek, but of course still a high-profile game all the same. Two big managers going head-to-head. There was only one goal in that game, which means with all the firepower that's going to be on show, I'm actually going to go for under 2.5 goals at plus 125.
I like it. I love what you're talking about. I love being able to use examples, especially when it's a manager matchup, if you will, right? And when you have the chess play that we get here from Pep and now the new manager out there as well in Bayern, I think there is something to be said for that. I think that Man City's coming for it, and I think a big part of the reason everyone loves them so much right now is for the fact that this is the only tournament they really haven't won with Pep at the helm there. And that's why I also think there's probably a little bit more of a tightness and maybe a little bit of a closing of the sphincters, if you will, as they continue to try to make sure that they don't give up goals, because they know that they're probably going to be able to get one, but from Haaland at least between these two games. Like, you've got to expect him to put another one in, leading this tournament as well as the EPL and scoring right now. And Tuchel, I'm never going to say it correctly. Tuchel is how I think you say it in German. If we're being honest, is Tuchel. But what he's doing here, what he's going to do, I believe, for Bayern, it continue to bring that, take advantage of that defense and the strength that they have back there to continue to not allow goals. I think they're down to still about 3 or 4 goals allowed in this entire tournament in 8 matches. So they continue to dominate, especially the British competition. But what would be the next place that you look if you are going to fade the sort of overly obvious play so much that there would be a ton of goals? I love the fading that thinking. How else do you play off of that?
Yeah, because I think a lot of people are going to fall into the trap of Man City plus Bayern equals loads of goals. It could happen, but I think sometimes this is where the sportsbooks collect because it actually goes against the grain. So with that in mind, I'm also going to go with Bayern to get the first goal at plus 145. Now, if we're going for under 2.5 goals in total, what this does in theory, it offers me a 1-0 Bayern win or 2-0 Bayern win, or maybe even a draw. It still gives me a lot of scores as long as Bayern get their noses in front first. I just feel that with Man City being as they are this season, obviously they're not a bad Man City team at all, and everyone says that Haaland has disrupted the balance, and there is a modicum of truth in that, but it's not made City a bad team or a worse team overnight. They're still a very good team, but there is an element of susceptibility about them now. Add the fact that João Cancelo is going to be playing for Bayern Munich, and I feel he's going to be sort of primed and ready to expose what City are lacking on the left Now they haven't got Cancelo in their team. I just feel that with Tuchel and that kind of, if we just get a goal, we get our nose in front, or even if we just get a draw in Manchester and take that goal to Germany the following week, I feel that puts Bayern in a really strong position. So I feel that Bayern are going to get that first goal, batten down the hatches, and even in the Premier League game that you might have seen a few days ago, it was Man City versus Liverpool. Liverpool got their noses in front and then fell apart second half. So even in this instance, it might blow my under 2.5 goals bet out the water if City then charge in the second half. But if Bayern get the first goal, we're winning.
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, Bayern is much more well suited than Liverpool to gain a lead and hold it.
Exactly.
Right? I think that's once you're down 1-0 to Bayern, you're in a very, very bad position because they do not play mistake-heavy football at all, and that's a big reason for why they do come out pressing initially and bring a lot of those the wing backs up all the way and try to really press early on, and they know that once they get that lead, that they're as good as anybody in the world probably at holding it. So I also like the idea of them to get that plus 145, and if they do score first, I do even more honestly this game to go under. I think the only way this game goes under or over 2.5 goals is in the event that Bayern are the ones sort of making a chase to cover up and try to win 1-0, and that's the only way that they ever really even get opened up. So for them to score first also follows along with the idea that there would be less goals scored in this one, the way that this would play out. So let's move on to the second game of this day here, Dan, and we're talking about Benfica and Inter, our beloved Benfica, as they continue to make us money. This is expected to be a close one as well. Plus 120 for the home team here to win Benfica, and then a draw plus 235. Inter also at plus 235 to win this in regular time, I should say as well. So where do you start when you're looking at this pretty even matchup?
Yeah, it is pretty even actually, and when it's like this, you'd think maybe it's even, but the home team would have minus odds, and you think, well, where's the value? But I'm looking at this, and Benfica at plus 120. I think them to win is a great price, because if you look at how Inter played against Porto in the last round, that also being Portuguese opposition, and they're not miles different from Benfica. Inter won the first leg 1-0 at the San Siro. Porto went down to 10 men, and that's why they got their late goal. Second leg, 0-0. Porto went down to 10 men. Inter couldn't even land a glove on them that night. They managed to scrape through. Benfica are a sort of different beast to Porto. Benfica are sort of running away with the Portuguese league, and I feel they've got a lot more to offer against Inter. And I just feel that if this game was played 100 times, it would probably be, like a 55-45 split in terms of Benfica. But I just feel that the way that Benfica played this season in the Champions League group stage, they had a group stage which included PSG and Juventus. Finished top of that group, don't forget. Neither of those two teams I just mentioned won in Portugal, so it's a real fortress to go to. It's not a great ground for any team to go to. So Inter Milan, they have also lost 4 of their last 6 league matches. Now, one of them was to Juventus, fair enough, but then they lost to Spezia, which is fourth bottoms. They're troubled with relegation. They've also lost to Bologna and Fiorentina, mid-table teams. So they're not coming into this game with any real form. I just feel that when you add the bluntness they showed in the round 16, Benfica, that we like anyway, they are, I guess, the dark horse in this last 8. They are also going to be favoured by the bracket that we mentioned in the future show, because you've got all the giants in one half, all the relative minnows in another. If they can clear this hurdle, who knows, they might get to the final. So I think Benfica are going to be bang up for this one, and I think at plus odds, why would you not take it?
Yeah, plus odds to win this game at home, and might even like them to do the same when they go back to Inter for the second leg, because we'll probably get even more juice unless they come out with a really big showing. But you're right about the way that Inter has been playing. It's been pretty bad. It's surprising how bad they've been on offense more than anything, to be honest, with the strikers that they have up there, as we were talking earlier about my beloved Lukaku. Their defense has been all right. They haven't allowed more than 2 goals, I believe, since October at this point. It's been a long time since they've given up more than 2 goals anyway. There's been a couple of games definitely that they've given up 2 goals in this Italian league, but not 3. And I think that's a big part of, why I also like it to be lower scoring in this one. Maybe I don't know if you want to call it a bankroll builder at this point, considering that we're already in the quarterfinals, and hopefully you've done a bit of that up to this point. But there's no harm in still sort of scraping together a few things, such as minus 160 for this game to go under 3 goals, which seems pretty likely to me. I don't see this either team being able to get 2 on the other in this one, to be honest. Although if one were going to do it, obviously I trust Benfica's offense a lot more right now, which kind of transitions nicely into what I believe your second bet is for this game.
Yeah, so this time I've gone for another grouping of scores. Sometimes we offer up just has to be that exact score. This time we're going to go for 3 in a range. Now, if we're going back to our logic of we can't see into scoring, I don't think that's a bold suggestion at all. I can't see that happening. By the same stretch, I can't see Benfica scoring 4 goals. They may have scored 5 at home to Club Bruges in the round of 16, but Inter, in fairness to them, are going to be a step up in opposition. Therefore, if we take the 1-0, 2-0, 3-0 home wins, you get plus 240. So there's all that coverage on just a Benfica home win without conceding, and it's not going to be a rampant victory. So I think that is the perfect sweet spot to squeeze even more juice from this market.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I love when we do these group scores, basically. I love the ability to bet on Inter not being able to score and getting, 2.5 to 1 on my money. It's a pretty good bet for Benfica to win this thing to 0, essentially, and get a couple of different scores in there that are possible. So it's going to be a good match. And we're down to some pretty fun ones in the quarterfinals. We also have a couple games the next day on April the 12th. Obviously, we just covered Tuesday's matches. So make sure to like and subscribe to that page. You can check out the other video we have up for you. And each and every one of these videos we're bringing you as we continue all the way through to the end of this tournament. And until we see you next, happy betting.